spoilers for Spider-Man Far From Home, because we are doing all the Easter eggs and references you can possibly imagine. We're talking characters, locations, references to the comics, connections to Avengers Endgame and the MCU, plus the future of the MCU, the different Spider-Man costumes, some of which we only get tiny hints at, and the end credits that might hint towards something Fantastic Four related. Here are the time codes though if you do want to jump around to any point in this video. And look, if you could leave a like, that would be much appreciated. I also accept Euro. Okay, characters. Now, I don't think anybody was fooled from the trailers that Mysterio was going to turn out to be anything other than the major villain of this movie. His origin has been somewhat tweaked for the movies. The MCU version is a former Stark employee who created the technology behind BARF, which we saw in Civil War. In the comics, however, and a lot of the animated versions, he's a disgruntled special effects artist. He has also dabbled in real magic and illusions and such, but traditionally, most versions, like the movie version, work in technology. We also get the return of some high school characters, Ned Leeds of course, MJ, Betty Brant, and Jason Onello. Brad Davis also shows up, which is a deep cut callback to a character of that name from the comics. He was a star quarterback who once dated Mary Jane Watson while she was on a split with Peter Parker. There's only one issue, he never showed up again. I'm fairly confident Peter Parker murdered him. We also get the return of Flash Thompson, and again, like the comic book version, he loves Spider-Man.
He looks out for the neighborhood, has a dope suit, and I really respect him. Sup, dickwad?
And these aren't really characters, but we do get the elementals. One of them is even thought to be Maury Bench, Hydra Man, because that's who he is in the comics. However, this is only a nod to the comics, because he's not a man, he's a hologram made of drones. Happy Hogan's back, of course. That's Jon Favreau, directed the first two Iron Man movies. Maria Hill, Nick Fury, Skrulls. We'll come back to that. Look, you know characters, you get it. The last one of note, though, I want to talk about is Dimitri, who ends up chaperoning Peter Parker's class. That could be the same Dimitri who ends up being the Chameleon, a character capable of changing his identity. But that remains to be seen. As far as locations go, we get Aunt May working at a homeless shelter. That's something she has done in the comics before. And most recently, we saw it in Spider-Man PS4. In Italy, we get signs for, and excuse me, or mi scusi, as I butcher these Italian pronunciations. We get Calle di Slotto, Bendicio, Michelino, Calle G Conveo. These are nods to Spider-Man and just general comic creators. Dan Slott, Brian Michael Bendis, David Michelino, or Michelino? I don't know. And Jerry Conway. Also, you may have noticed at the end of the movie, we get the Osborn house, which is a real New York location from the Raimi trilogy. Does this universe's Norman Osborn live there? We'll find out. And of course, we get hints towards the Avengers Tower turning into something else. But that, I'll save to the end. But you can skip to it. That's fine also. Okay, comics. Now, Quentin Beck says he is from a parallel dimension and there is a multiverse. He is a liar and a fraud, but that happens to be true of the MCU. We know at the very least there's a multiverse from the branching timelines that were created from the time travel in Endgame. He actually calls the main MC universe Earth 616, something he's clearly just made up. That, though, in fact, is the name of the main universe from the Marvel Comics. And he says that he's from Earth 833, which funnily enough is where Spider-Man UK is from. One of my favorite sequences in the movie is where Mysterio makes Spider-Man all trip out with his holograms and illusions and such. This is Mysterio all over from the comics, confusing the senses, growing real big, pulling your fishbowl head off, making you run into a wall. It's classic Mysterio, it's so great. He also shows a zombified Iron Man, which could very well be a nod towards the Marvel Zombies comic, which is actually returning later this year. We also see MJ thrown off a bridge. That, of course, happens in the first Spider-Man movie, and is also what happens to Gwen Stacy in the comics, which is killed by the Green Goblin. We get a nod to the Ultimate Universe, and those comics. It's also in that world that Nick Fury, even though it's not Nick Fury, it's complicated. Just hang on, we'll do the Skrulls thing. He wants to recruit Spider-Man when he turns 18 into S.H.I.E.L.D. And if Spider-Man doesn't join, then he's going to consider him an enemy. We see a sign for Crusher Hogan, which is of course the wrestler that Spider-Man defeated in a wrestling match when he first got his spider powers. Spider-Man's spider sense is referred to as a Peter Tingle by Aunt May.
I thought that you could sense that with your Peter Tingle.
Peter Parker's suitcase has the initials BFP on it, which is the name of his uncle, Benjamin Farty Pants Parker. MJ is seen wearing a Tiger t-shirt, because the Go Get 'em Tiger thing, you know it. There's a lot of number plates as well that reference the comics. On the bridge in England, there's a plate that says TASM 143, which is the Amazing Spider-Man 143, which is an issue about Spider-Man going to Europe. Just before the big sand monster is revealed, there's license plate 463, a nod to the Amazing Spider-Man issue 4 from 1963, which is the first appearance of the Sandman. ASM 212 on the boat in Venice, which is a nod to the first appearance of Hydro Man. When we see Molten Man, there's a number plate, ASM 28965, which is Spider-Man 28 from 1965. May Parker's car that she picks Peter Parker up in the airport is AMF 1562, which of course is the comic that Spider-Man first appeared in, Amazing Fantasy 15, in 1962. Peter Parker having his identity revealed has also happened a couple times in the comics, but most notably in Civil War. Spider-Man in Europe is called the Night Monkey. There's no specific character called that from Marvel, but there is the Marvel Apes universe where there is a monkey version of Spider-Man. And Nick Fury is off doing all sorts of space business. That could be him setting up SWORD, which is like the space version of S.H.I.E.L.D. All right, Endgame connections. We get the Iron Man Captain America tribute to Whitney Houston's I Will Always Love You, Kevin Costner Carry Me, the Bodyguard song. Fake Nick Fury also talks about Tony Stark's funeral, and we know that the snap, which wiped out half the life in the universe, is now being referred to as the blip, and we get footage of a whole lot of students returning, which means that they stay the same age while some grow up. Also, of course, Spider-Man's glasses are Tony Stark's glasses that we saw in Endgame. Now, with the MCU connections, there's so many. Fake Nick Fury mentions the Kree sleeper cells. The Kree, of course, being the main villains from Captain Marvel. That there are good Krees. Could this be like a roundabout way of doing Secret Invasion? Who's to say? Who knows? One of the people helping out Mysterio is William, a character I believe we have not seen since Iron Man 1, famous for being yelled at by Jeff Bridges. That's such a privilege.
Tony Stark was able to build this in a cave with a box of scrap!
That's a bloody callback and a half. Thor is said to have been a myth, but now he's studied in physics class. There's of course a bunch of Skrulls, the ones that Nick Fury are with, but also husband and wife team Talos and Soren. They're of course impersonating Maria Hill and Nick Fury. Or were they? I did another video on all the possible scenarios that may have now been opened up now that we have this information. AC/DC is played while Peter Parker makes his new suit, but of course he mislabels them. There's some documentaries on the plane that refer to some significant MCU people and events, including the documentary Finding Wakanda. Thor is also of course said to be off-world because he's with the Guardians, and Captain Marvel is unavailable. Costumes! Alright, let's go through all of them. We got the Spider-Man Homecoming suit. You know, the fancy one that's got all the different web combinations and the AI in it and all that. We get the Iron Spider, which again returns from Infinity War and Endgame. We can see that's kept in some kind of stasis. And in Peter Parker's room, you can see there's a button with power connected to it that says, do not turn off. The black suit is a nod to both the stealth suit and Spider-Man Noir. Red and black suit, that's something from the comics. Here's a picture, now you know it if you didn't. Also, we see one of the options when he's 3D printing his suit is the Iron Spider, but what looks like more the comic book version from Civil War, and among the other variations that are there is the Spider Armor Mark III, which is heavily reinforced and also available in Spider-Man PS4. All right, end credits. Like I said, I did a video on this. I encourage you to check it out. I'll link it at the end and below. But in a nutshell, we get the appearance of J. Jonah Jameson, as played by J.K. Simmons, from the Raimi trilogy. He's still working for the Daily Bugle, but that's been altered in this universe, so it's some kind of cable news network show. He doesn't have the J. Jonah Jameson hair, obviously, and I find that incredibly disappointing. But what do? You know, you just gotta live your life. It's still good to see J.K. Simmons back, which I guess means he's also not Commissioner Gordon anymore, but who cares? And of course, as I mentioned, there's the reveal that Nick Fury and Maria Hill are Skrulls. But you see Spider-Man glide through the center of what was Stark Tower, and then it was Avengers Tower, and then it was sold off. We saw that in Homecoming when they were moving all the stuff from it. We don't actually know what that's going to be yet. Could be an Oscorp Tower or the Baxter Building where the Fantastic Four live. And I say that because during this sequence, there is a sign in the background that says something big is coming. And then there's the numbers 1, 2, 3, all with circles around them, and then ... as in, you know, the next thing is the fourth thing, and the Fantastic Four logo is, of course, the 4 with the circle around it. Might not be that, obviously. It could just be, well, this is the end of Phase 3, which followed up Phases 1 and 2, and the next is Phase 4, so, you know, get ready. But I think the Fantastic Four might be revealed at Comic-Con this year. The last movie we got from them was in 2015. So by the time they film it, even if they start this year, at the very earliest, and I'd say this is probably unlikely, we'll see it late 2020. But yeah, potential Fantastic Four movie on the horizon. Now, of course, as is the nature with Easter eggs, more things pop up. You know, you see the movie again, you're like, oh man, I got some more Easter eggs that I didn't put them in the video because this was recorded on the Thursday or whatevs. So here's a list of miscellaneous Easter eggs that also appeared in Spider-Man Euro Trip 2019. Spider-Man. Spider-Man. He can do whatever a spider can. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. He's Spider-Man. I mean, he's not the only one. There's multiple Spider-Mans and women. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, you saw Spider-Verse. You know what I'm talking about. Why don't they make a Spider-Verse movie? Yeah, 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 yeah. Bring back Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield. You could make Emma Stone Spider-Gwen. Anyways, any Easter egg references, anything like that I've missed, please let me know in the comments below. Or even if you've got any ideas or thoughts about what's coming next in the MCU. For Spider-Man, for other characters. Nick Fury, what's he up to? Come on, what's he doing? You tell me. Also, of course, there's videos here every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday. There's a recent one on the deleted scenes from this movie. And of course, we've been covering the Raimi Spider-Man trilogy in Caravan of Garbage. Don't let the title fool you. We say a lot of good stuff, but it's interesting going back to these films after the decades or so that has passed. Also, I have a podcast called The Weekly Planet where we talk movies and comics and TV shows. This Monday, we are doing a spoiler review of Spider-Man Far From Home. We'd love it if you swung on by to check it out. It's available on Spotify and Apple. It's got its own YouTube channel, most platforms. But yeah, Monday morning. Check it out if you want. Anyways, thanks for watching this video. I bloody appreciate it, and I appreciate you. Take care. Bloody bang that out, mate. Record time.